Saturday night, 1954. Somewhere in rural Georgia. The children are already in bed. The house is quiet, in a way that only Saturday night is quiet. Different from every other night of the week. Slower, more deliberate. A woman walks to the bathroom alone. She closes the door, not because anyone is watching, not because she needs privacy from her husband or her kids. She closes it because this is hers. 7 minutes that belong entirely to her before Sunday comes. She knows exactly what she's doing. She's done it every Saturday night since she was 16, standing in her mother's bathroom, watching the same ritual happen in the same order with the same quiet focus. No clock on the wall. She doesn't need one. 7 minutes every Saturday night, her whole adult life. And when she walks out of that bathroom, something has shifted. She carries herself differently. Even her husband notices it. Something settled, something prepared. She'll be in the third pew by 9 a.m., and everyone in that church will see a woman who is completely, effortlessly, ready. That's what I want to talk about today. Not the products, not the ingredients, the ritual itself. What it was, why it worked, and what quietly disappeared from American homes when nobody was paying attention. Before we get into it, this channel is built around exactly this kind of forgotten American wisdom. The stuff that worked, the stuff that disappeared, and the stuff worth bringing back. If that's your kind of thing, hit subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it means a lot. Why Saturday night specifically? Here's something I didn't fully understand until I started digging into this. Saturday night wasn't random. In mid-century American life, Sunday morning was the single most important public appearance of the week. Church wasn't just religious observance. It was the social center of every community in the country, particularly in smaller towns and rural areas. You would see everyone you knew, your neighbors, your children's teachers, the women you traded recipes with at the A&P. How you showed up on Sunday morning was a statement, and 1,950 seconds women understood, with absolute clarity, that you did not make that statement at 7 a.m. on Sunday, when you had 45 minutes before the children had to be dressed and in the car. You made it on Saturday night, when you had time, when the house was quiet, when you could do it right. This is the piece that gets lost when people look back at how these women always seemed to look so put together. They assume it was effortless. It wasn't. It was planned. It was prepared. And the preparation happened the night before. In 7 minutes, alone. I've talked to women who grew up in these homes. Every single one of them describes the same Saturday night atmosphere. A particular quiet that settled over the house. A mother who disappeared into the bathroom for a few minutes and came out different. Not visibly different, just ready. The psychology of preparation. There's actually a name for what these women were doing, psychologically speaking. Researchers who study behavioral patterns call it pre-commitment, the act of removing future decisions from the equation by making them in advance, when you're calm and deliberate, rather than rushed and stressed. A woman who completed her Saturday night ritual had already made every decision she needed to make about Sunday morning. Hair was done, skin was prepared. The effort was banked. Sunday morning became execution, not improvisation. The stress hormone cortisol spikes dramatically when we're forced to make appearance decisions under time pressure. Any woman who has stood in front of a bathroom mirror at 7:45 a.m., knowing she needed to leave at 8, knows exactly what that feels like. The 1,950 seconds woman had already spent that cortisol on Saturday night, when it didn't matter. Sunday morning, her body was calm, her hands were steady, her mind was elsewhere, thinking about the sermon, thinking about who she'd see, thinking about the pot roast she'd start when she got home. She looked effortless because she had eliminated every source of effort 12 hours earlier. The ritual, step by step. So what did those 7 minutes actually look like? I want to be specific here, because the specificity is the whole point. This wasn't vague self-care. It was a precise sequence, and the sequence mattered. Step 1. The face. 30 seconds Pond's cold cream, worked in small upward circles starting at the jaw. Not scrubbed, pressed and rotated the way her mother showed her. Tissued off clean, 30 seconds total. The science behind this is straightforward and has been confirmed many times over since. Mineral oil, the primary ingredient in cold cream, dissolves oil-based buildup without stripping the skin's natural barrier. It cleans without damage. Modern dermatologists are quietly coming back around to it after decades of selling women complicated alternatives. A jar cost 35 cents. It lasted 2 months. She never ran out, and she never worried about running out. Step 2. The neck and décolletage. 20 seconds. This is the detail that separates women who studied beauty from women who simply practiced it. The neck and chest age faster than the face and receive less attention than any other part of the body. 1950s women knew this. They extended every single step of their routine downward, below the jawline, onto the chest. The same cold cream, the same upward circles, the same tissue. I notice this every time I look at photographs from the era. The skin consistency from face to neck is remarkable. No hard line at the jaw where the routine stopped. It never stopped at the jaw. Step 3. The hands. 1 minute. Saturday night was also dish night and laundry night for most American households. Her hands had worked all day. She knew it. Vaseline. A thin coat worked into every knuckle, every nail bed, the back of each hand from fingertip to wrist. Cotton gloves over the top if she had them, which most women did. She slept in them. By Sunday morning, hands that had washed dishes and scrubbed floors looked like they hadn't touched a thing all week. The mechanism is simple. Vaseline is an occlusive. It creates a physical seal over the skin, locking in moisture that would otherwise evaporate overnight. The skin repairs itself under the seal. This is not folk remedy. This is the same principle used in wound care and post-procedure skin treatment in modern medicine. She was doing it to her hands in 1953 for 39 cents a jar. Step 4. The hair. 3 minutes. This is where the 7 minutes went. And this is the step most people don't understand when they look back at 1,950 seconds hair. The set that lasted through Sunday, the smooth wave, the tucked curl, the structured style that held from the third pew through coffee hour, did not happen on Sunday morning. It happened Saturday night. She sat at the vanity, bobby pins in a small dish in front of her, a comb, damp hair or slightly dampened sections. She set her pin curls methodically, lifting each section, winding it flat against the scalp, pressing it down with a pin through the center. 22 to 30 pin curls for a full set, depending on the length. Each one pressed flat and pinned tight. A hairnet over the whole thing. A sleeping cap if she had one. A cotton scarf if she didn't. And then she went to sleep. Sunday morning she removed each pin in reverse order, combed through with a wide-tooth comb, smoothed with the heel of her hand. 5 minutes. The curl was already there. Women washed their hair once a week, and it held a set for 7 days, because the curl was set when the hair was in the right state of moisture to hold it. Not because of product, because of timing and technique. Step 5. 30 seconds. She sat still for 30 seconds. That's it. That's step 5. I know that sounds like nothing, but every woman I've read about, every oral history I've come across that describes this ritual in detail, mentions it. After the cream, after the pins, she sat. Sometimes she looked at herself in the mirror. Sometimes she looked at nothing. 30 seconds of deliberate stillness before she opened the door and went back to the world. What the stillness actually did. That 30 seconds is the thing I keep coming back to. It seems so small, but I think it's actually the most important part of the whole ritual. There's a concept in stress physiology called the parasympathetic reset, the moment when the nervous system shifts from active engagement back to baseline. It requires deliberate stillness. It cannot be rushed. And when it happens, the body releases a cascade of signals that reduce inflammation, slow the heart rate, and lower the baseline level of cortisol in the bloodstream. 30 seconds of intentional stillness, alone, in a closed room. That's all it takes to initiate it. These women were not doing this with any knowledge of parasympathetic nervous systems. They were doing it because their mothers did it, and because it felt right. Because leaving that room without pausing felt incomplete somehow, like a sentence without a period. But the effect on the body was real. The effect on the face they brought to Sunday morning was real. Calm skin, not flushed, not reactive. Settled. The daughter in the doorway. Here's the part that I find genuinely worth thinking about. The ritual was never taught as a lesson. Not once in any of the accounts I've come across did a mother sit her daughter down and explain the Saturday night ritual. There was no instruction, no written down steps. It was transmitted by proximity. A daughter in the hallway, watching through a cracked door. A daughter sitting on the edge of the tub while her mother moved through the steps without thinking. A daughter handing her the bobby pins, one at a time, while she set her hair. No words, just watching. And when that daughter was old enough to have her own Saturday night, her hands already knew what to do. The order of the steps felt as natural as breathing. She didn't think of it as her mother's ritual. She thought of it as just what you did. That's how knowledge passed in that generation. Not through books, not through magazines, through proximity, repetition, and the quiet authority of watching someone who knew exactly what they were doing. When the ritual stopped, there was nothing to watch. The daughters had nothing to carry forward, and the knowledge simply stopped. That's not a small thing to lose. Why it disappeared. The Saturday night ritual began disappearing in the mid-1960s, and it didn't go for one reason. It went for several that all arrived at the same time. Synthetic hair products became widely available and were marketed on the promise of skipping the set altogether. Why spend Saturday night in pin curls when you could spray something on Sunday morning and be done in 10 minutes? The spray cost $1.89. The bobby pins were already in the drawer, but the spray came in a box with a photograph of a woman who looked like she hadn't tried at all. The beauty industry sold effortlessness as an upgrade. The ritual looked like effort by comparison. Effort, by the late 1960 seconds, was becoming unfashionable. At the same time, Sunday morning itself was changing. Church attendance began declining. The social structure that made Sunday appearance a weekly priority started loosening. If the occasion didn't demand preparation, the preparation felt unnecessary. And somewhere in that loosening, the Saturday night bathroom door closed for the last time in millions of American homes. The 7 minutes belonged to no one. The quiet that used to live there disappeared. I spent a long time thinking about why this particular ritual stuck with me when I was researching this. I think it's because it's not really about beauty at all. It's about the relationship between preparation and confidence, between taking private time for yourself and the version of yourself you bring into public spaces, between what happens alone in a closed bathroom on a Saturday night and the woman who walks out of the church on Sunday morning and doesn't feel the need to explain herself to anyone. That woman didn't happen by accident. She happened on Saturday night, in 7 minutes, alone. Your grandmother probably knew this ritual. Maybe she called it something. Maybe she never called it anything. It was just what she did, what she always did, what her mother did. If you had a woman like that in your life, if you remember watching her at the vanity, or smelling the cold cream, or seeing the bobby pins laid out in a row, I'd genuinely like to hear about it. Those memories are part of what this channel exists to keep alive. Drop it in the comments. It doesn't have to be long, even one sentence. And if this kind of forgotten American ritual is something you want to keep coming back to, a like on this video helps more than you might think. It's the best way to let me know this work matters. There's a lot more where this came from.